Nic.
Steve.
Today, we've solved obesity. It's all, throw these papers away, we don't need these. Calories in, calories out. You just eat less, move more, you're sorted. Nothing else to consider, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. No.
No.
Controversial one today. So we're
Very.
sort of debunking the calories in, calories out for weight loss myth.
Yep.
There can be underlying factors. It's not just as simple as that. So stay tuned. We're going to tell you all the reasons why, possibly, if you're doing all the right things and you're still not losing weight, that there could be other things going on.
Well, let's get into it.
Yeah. Hey everyone, welcome to the ATP project. You're with your host, Nic and Steve.
How are you, Nic?
Good, Steve. How are you?
Great. And today we've got a great topic. We've solved obesity by the look of it.
Yeah, we have solved
easy.
obesity. Yeah.
Easy.
Yes.
So today we're talking about calories in and calories out.
Well, it's not really an old argument. That continuous argument of calories in, calories out. You know, so some people say it comes down to calories in and calories out, and some people say, well, no, it's got nothing to do with that. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about, in some instances, maybe it is just calories in, calories out, and in other instances, there are underlying issues that mean that possibly that is not really the whole. It's not as simplified as that.
Well, it's tricky. It's really tricky because. Yeah. I mean, firstly, we've got to address how do you count calories? The second thing you've got to address is that, what you eat is not necessarily what's absorbed in your body.
Yeah.
And the third thing is when you say calorie in and calorie out, are you referring to exercise? Because exercise is only less than a third of the calories you eat throughout the day. So you and I exercise a lot.
Yeah.
It's less than a third. The majority of it's our basal metabolic rate. And then you've got this other thing called TEF, thermic effect of food. And so it's very difficult to calculate all this.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about that today. And it all came, there was a beautiful paper about this published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition. And it talked about two models of obesity and why we're getting fat. And there's competing paradigms for obesity pathogenesis, I'm reading the title here, energy balance versus carbohydrate insulin model. So it's like, is it the energy balance thing, or is it the food changing your chemistry and changing things? Yeah. And also, what I also find with this is that when I look at calories in, calories out, on social media, and there's a lot of proponents talking about, counting calories, and they're usually fit gym bros.
That's right, yeah.
Now, when you're in clinic, because Nicole Brown Naturopathy, you're a practicing naturopath, you don't see too many gym bros, you see normal people.
Yeah.
That try and count calories.
That's right.
And I did send you a video. Do you want to talk about that video I sent you about that lady who had a metabolic problem?
Yes. So there was the video. I don't know, what was it? What did it come up?
Oh, it was on Instagram. I always send you Instagram stuff.
Yeah,
it's usually about dogs and other things.
It's funny stuff, yeah.
Yep.
Politics, quantum physics. So this was about a lady, and she was on... she thought she had a metabolic issue. Yep. And so she was taking in, was it 1,500 or 1,300?
1,200 calories. She was on a 1,200 calorie diet. Now, for those who aren't watching, I've got inverted commas up. She was on a 1,200 calorie diet. So, sorry, go ahead.
She was on a 1,200 calorie diet. She was quite obese, you could say. And she said, I don't know why I can't lose weight. I'm on a 1,200 calorie diet. Yep. Well, they actually looked into it a bit more, and she was actually eating 3,000 calories a day.
Just over 3,000 calories.
Just over 3,000 calories a day. So... there is that element of it, and so we can go through some of the reasons why possibly you may not be eating the calories that you think you're eating.
Yeah, exactly.
To begin with, and then that could be the problem. And then we'll go into if that's all on point and you still can't lose weight, then there could be other underlying issues. And let me just say, at the end of the day, I guess if you really want to look at the basics of calories in, calories out, yes, you will lose weight. It does come down to that, because if you don't eat, you will lose weight, right?
Of course.
But who's going to not eat?
Yeah. Okay, so let's say you're a well-meaning person who's trying to cut calories and they read the food labels. Like, I've picked up my thing with a food label on it and it's got this on it, and so I can work out how many calories I'm eating. What are some of the problems with that?
So there's a lot of inaccuracies around food labels. And most food labels in the US, and I'm pretty sure obviously across the board, because a lot of the products are global now anyway, they're allowed an error of margin of up to 20% in calories. So either that's 20% more than they say on the label or 20% less than they say on the label. So one of the problems with that is if that's such a significant factor for you, then you're eating too many processed foods for starters.
Yes.
I will say that.
Yes. If it's got a label on it, right? it's in a packet. Exactly.
So, but obviously we all have some things that are in packets. Like some people have milk alternatives and things like that. But up to 20%. So you could be eating 20% more calories than is listed on the label of that product. And if you're having 3 of those a day or 4 of those a day or different products that are all maybe 20% more than what the label's stating, then right there that you're adding quite a few calories.
And it gets worse than that. So let's say you're eating meat and veg for dinner, and let's say you look up how many calories is in a steak, and okay, let's even say you weigh the damn steak.
Yeah.
Okay, and it comes out to be quarter of a kilo or 250 grams or half a pound or 3/4 of a pound. And you go, is that lean or is that, fatty steak?
Yeah.
And you've got to judge that.
You do, yeah.
Because, you see Wagyu, that's obviously fatty, and you see rump and it's obviously lean, but it's like a guess. Because there's no, if you cut up 200 grams of steak it'd be multiple different calories depending on the fat and protein content.
Definitely.
So it's out.
It's out, yeah. And then how you cook it.
Yep.
What you cook it in.
Yep.
So some people don't go, I just use a spray of oil. But if you use a spray of oil 3 times a day on your proteins, there's calories there.
Oh, yeah. Most people tip the olive oil on that, like I do. I don't count
calories.
Yeah, I just drink. But and how many people weigh that?
Well, that's right. And then are you reading the raw weight calories, or are you reading the cooked weight calories?
Yep.
And then are you doing the opposite? So, it's 120 grams of raw chicken breast is whatever, 120, 150 calories. Then you're cooking it.
Yeah.
So then you may be getting less.
Well, what if you're cooking on a grill where all the fat dribbles through?
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, it's a nightmare. But let's say you're doing all that right, and you're sort of doing all that sort of thing. Let's say you prepare the food. What about different cooking methods? That changes the calorie content. Like you can make resistant starch, for example.
Yeah, that's right. So resistant starch means that you actually extract less calories, carbohydrates from the meal. And then the different ways to cook, as you said, it'd be air fried, it'd be cooking it in oils or fats or whatever what sort of fats you're cooking it in. And the other thing, when we were going to do this podcast, I actually looked up, say, a chicken breast.
Did you?
How much protein and calories was in 100 grams of cooked chicken breast.
Yep.
I got 4 different answers.
Well, how different?
Well, quite different, and usually with about probably a 50 to 60 calorie variable between the 4 different resources that I went to, and reputable resources as well.
That's amazing because, chicken breast I thought would be one that they'd have nailed because it's very lean.
Yeah.
And it's a sort of, there's sizes of chickens, I think 15 is the standard one in Australia, which is a 1.5 kilo chicken. So I thought they'd be pretty accurate for that.
Well, not what I found. So therefore, even if you're trying to do the right thing, eating all unprocessed foods, and you're looking it up on whatever maybe app, because people use apps to count their calories. That app could be quite different from another app or from a database or something like that. So therein lies another problem. Are you even putting in the accurate amount of calories that you're having?
Oh, gosh.
The next one is, and I have had clients say this to me, is, well, I kind of have to estimate calories because I'm making a meal for the family.
Yes.
So I just estimate the calories. So you could be vastly underestimating the calories that are in there by even up to 500 calories for the meal that you're having. So if you're doing that 4 times a week, that's an extra 2,000 calories that you're not taking into consideration for the week.
Which is about a day's worth of food for a woman.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really remarkable, and this is before we even start to get into other bioavailability of people. I mean, so you could be out by a fair whack already.
You could be, yeah.
But let's compound that. Let's make it worse. Well, I wanted you to talk to me about the bioavailability of calories, because there's calories in food that let's say we got all that perfectly right.
Yes.
And there's 500 calorie dinner plate of food, and you eat it and I eat it.
Yeah.
It's different calories.
It is.
Even though it started off.
Yeah.
So explain that for me.
Well, I mean, things like nuts and seeds and things like that have lower you absorb less of that from the actual food.
Okay.
So there's that because fibre.
Yes.
So fibre isn't absorbed for the most part.
Yep.
So cooking and processing can change the bioavailability of food as well. So depending on the state that it's in and how it's cooked, can actually can significantly change the calories that are in that and how
Can I take you back 250,000 years?
Sure, I remember it vaguely.
Yeah, I was only a kid at the time.
Yeah.
But when man discovered fire, I'll say woman and man because I don't want to get the emails.
Humans.
Discovered fire. You can actually cook the meat and get more calories out of it because the meat, the fire or heating it, pre-digests it.
Yeah.
So that changes the calories. Just like instead of having raw this, you have cooked something and you get more calories out of it.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's like, so that changed it all too. You could perfect get 100 grams of breast chicken, which is 300 calories exactly, and you cook it and you get more calories out of it.
Yeah. So that goes back to when you're doing the raw weights.
Yep.
And then you're cooking it. So not only are you doing the raw weight, because the weight changes when you cook it, but also the bioavailability changes when you cook it. So the calories are going to change as well. So
of course.
It's not black and white, basically. There's a lot. So
and you talked about digestive efficacy. That's fine. And then we've got this other thing that we've got different basal metabolic rates. Now, I've never measured my basal metabolic rate like accurately in a calorimeter and all this sort of crap because I wouldn't know what it is. But there's different basal metabolic rates.
Yeah.
And this is a big difference. I want to hold up a graph and you'll see the three colours on that graph and you'll see the big blue slab, 60%.
Yeah.
That's how much you burn just sitting there.
That's right.
The little red thing, 32%.
Yeah.
And you got this other thing we haven't talked about, thermic effective food. But most of it's your basal metabolic rate. So if your basal metabolic rate is, say, 10% higher than mine, then you're going to be burning way more calories than me.
Yeah.
Or I
For
could
the
have
same intake.
Yeah.
But burning more or burning less.
Yeah, exactly. So different metabolic effects, and also, if I've got more muscles than you, which I haven't, then they use more calories.
That's right. Yeah. So you could be more muscled.
Yeah.
Obviously, because more metabolically healthy as well. So there's all of that comes into play. So if you get a person who's relatively overweight, they're probably under-muscled, probably a bit sarcopenic.
Yep.
So their metabolic function isn't going to be great, and then they're going to eat the same calories as somebody, say their friend who's maybe a little bit overweight but a little bit more muscled, so therefore a little bit more metabolically healthy. And like, well, why are you losing weight so fast and I'm not?
Yeah.
Because there's that metabolic effect as well. So that comes into play also. So there's there's a lot. Then here's another one that's really common.
Yeah.
Is portion-sized estimation errors.
Oh.
So, people say, I just estimate, that's about that much. Well, that could be way off what it actually is.
Well, let's say you went to a naturopath, say I'm seeing you as a patient. I said, and on Saturday I had a small piece of cake. How much is a small piece of cake?
Yeah.
What is that? What is there? There's no, that equals 50 grams of cake. No, there's no measurement for that. And everybody who, unless you're having a pre-packed meal that's been deadly accurately, which not many people do, you're going to have variable, it's just too hard to guess.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know how they take that into account. I mean, I had a small handful of nuts.
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
Well, and that can be a trap. Or nut butters. I see that a lot in clinics. So I have a little bit of nut butter today. How much? A couple of teaspoons. Well, that could be quite a few hundred calories in that. But they don't measure it. And I would say the majority. And look, with good reason. I hate measuring my food. I very rarely. I actually measured it the other week because I haven't measured it for 20 years.
Really?
So I thought, I probably should do it just to see. But most people don't because it's really difficult and it's really time consuming.
Yeah.
So I don't ever say to people, measure your food every day, count your calories every day.
Yeah.
Do it for 2 or 3 days and get a bit of a metric. But a lot of people won't, even when they do it, they won't do it properly.
Yeah.
Because it is really time consuming and difficult. And they go, I haven't got time to do that. That one's I've made it all the other stuff, ingredients, and so I'll just add to what I think it is. And or I eyeball that because I haven't got my scales in front of me. So, but this is kind of what it is. Well, you could be out 300 calories, 400 calories, 500 calories, And either way too, you could be under. And, I see a lot of people in clinic more women mostly, who are more likely to undereat than overeat.
Yeah.
And that can be just as problematic for weight loss
Very
as well.
much so, yeah.
So either way, it could be going the wrong way, and you're thinking you're having this many calories and you're not. So it's a trap.
It's a trap. And also, let's say I'm super accurate. I said I had 200 grams of steak and 3 heads of broccoli and they were 100 grams. And I'll tell you that. And I forget to mention that I had sauce with my steak.
Oh, that's a big one.
Isn't it?
You know how big a one? Because I have this particular soy, it's really nice soy Asian-y thing I put on a lot of stuff, just for flavour because I pretty much eat bland stuff. It was 250-something calories per teaspoon.
Oh, my God.
So it's a lot.
Is it just all oily stuff, is it?
you have
because
oil.
remember,
Because I don't take. I mean, I look at the ingredients. Obviously, it's a very clean product, but yeah, there's oil and stuff in it. I don't care. Doesn't bother me the calories, but I was surprised.
Yeah.
So sauces are a big trap, and also drinks. People may not log a drink, so they may just have a little bit of this or a little bit of something else, and they don't log it. So sauces and beverages are a trap that people forget about.
Well, also, let's say at the end of the day when you're writing out your diary about how much, do a food diary and that sort of thing, you may honestly 110% forget something. Yeah. You had a cup of orange juice. Yeah. You forgot it. Yeah. And you're going to say, I didn't eat many calories today. Look at that. Yeah. Like that lady that and she was out grossly. But I mean, she was convinced she had a metabolic problem. They measured her very accurately.
Thyroid and everything was
everything
fine.
Perfect. Yeah. So that just goes down to human error again too. And okay, and what if you eat at a restaurant? What happens then?
Well, you can't measure. They might, I know some restaurants, probably the lesser expensive ones, do sometimes put the calories in there on the meals. Not the expensive restaurants don't, but you can grossly under or overestimate the portion sizes there as well. So absolutely, and what they cook it in. If they're cooking it in oil, you don't know. Yep. They have to add that. And we sound like we're nitpicking, and people say, well, people don't live their life around, tracking calories. And that's not what we're getting at all. No. What we're saying is that if you are tracking calories and you're not losing weight and you're wondering, before we get into the other reasons,
there's plenty of other reasons too,
this could be a big factor for a lot of people. So if you really are honing on your calories, these could be things that could be throwing you off a little bit.
Exactly. Okay, and let's say I've got a fit watch and I go to the gym.
Oh, yeah.
What happens then? It tells me I burnt, make this up, 300 calories today.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Fitness trackers are not accurate.
They're definitely not accurate. They're the most inaccurate things you've ever seen.
They are. They're really inaccurate. And most of them, funnily enough, are based off the male...
Bloody men. Yeah. It's all the men's fault.
Metabolic health and all the sort of things to do with males, because they're all tested on males. Yeah. So women, they're cycling, their metabolic rate can go up and go down and all that sort of stuff as well. So, fitness trackers are not that accurate.
Terrible. And also, I mean, if I'm 77 kilograms and I walked, say, a kilometre, and there was someone else that was twice my 150 kilos, and he walked a kilometre, he would burn way more energy than me.
That's right.
And I watched it say the same.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
And
it's like, then you got to add for this and that. Well, all right, how much muscle, how much fat, and it's just like, oh my God, how do you?
Well, that's the thing they say when you say okay, so here's the calories for a sedentary person. Yep. So add if you're moderate exercise, heavy exercise. But what is that? What constitutes heavy exercise? How much is that? So how do you measure that? Just I exercise. I'm a moderate exerciser, but what's moderate?
Well,
so how do you track it?
Exactly. What is moderate? What's high intensity? Yeah. Like I was talking about a friend of mine. He passed away recently, very unhealthy, 55, and for him, walking 100 metres would be the most extreme exercise that he's done because he was very unhealthy, unfortunately. Known him since primary school, and so. What is intensity and what is that? I mean, walking 100 metres for me, I wouldn't consider it an exercise. I don't think of it like that. Like I walk 100 metres from the park to the shops, whatever, it's like doesn't consider. Even my wife and I, when we go for a walk sometimes before dinner, we put dinner on and, put the steamed veggies on, go for a wander for 10 minutes. I don't consider that exercise. No. That's not part of it's just like wandering around, and we've got a ginger cat around the corner. I go pat him, he's good. But that's not exercise.
No, I walk the dog twice a day, but I don't log that as exercise.
You're a machine, though.
But I don't because it's not what's the word, structured exercise for me. It's just walking the dog. So, but for other people, it may be.
All right. Now, outside of structured exercise, I'm going to give you an acronym, NEAT. What does that mean? NEAT. What does that mean?
That stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Oh,
Steve.
Jesus.
So that's kind of like fidgeting and all that sort of stuff.
That's like me doing this.
Yeah, so people who fidget actually lose more weight, are leaner than people who don't.
Because they're moving.
Yeah. So it's just that movement really can actually, that burns calories. Everything's shivering, anything like that. Getting up and down. So people... hear people say, I don't have any time to exercise. I'm at work all day. I'm in front of the computer all day. I'm like, okay, so why can't every hour you get up and do 20 air squats?
Yes.
on the spot.
I know, here
because
they
that
used to do
actually is neat. So you're moving, so you are burning calories.
Oh, yeah. And also, here's a funny thing I just thought about, speaking of working in an office. It's pretty hot outside today. It's about 30 degrees. It's summer here in Queensland, so it's pretty hot. But let's say in here is 24. If I turned it to 22, the air conditioner, I think Matt knows how to do it, but then everyone's calorie consumption would go up a little bit because they've got to keep themselves at 37 to compensate for the air conditioner.
Yeah, exactly.
What a great way to get everyone lean here.
That's right.
Just turn the air conditioning up.
Yeah.
Screw the power. but like that, even people can't count, how cold's your environment.
Yeah.
So I spoke to my mother this morning, it's going to be 22 in Melbourne today and she's cold. She'd be burning more calories than she did yesterday. It was 42 in Melbourne yesterday.
Yeah.
So she'd be burning. So that changes. The weather changes your exercise.
It does.
You know, 81-year-old just coming back from the gym. Don't you love that?
I love it. Yeah.
I said, are you the oldest there? She goes, oh, there's a guy there that comes occasionally, but he's not very well lately, so he hasn't been. It's like, okay. Don't want to ask too much about that then. But it's like, because she's too old not to exercise now.
Yeah, that's
she can't, it's like she would decay.
I think everyone's too old not to exercise. How does that work?
No, it's like I'm 55. I have to exercise. So if I was 25, I'd
you can get away with it.
I can get away with it.
Yeah, then you're starting to get the pains and the niggles and like, I need to move.
I get out of bed and I'm in pain. It's like,
But yeah, you do when you get a certain age. I'm the same. If I don't exercise for a couple of days,
you're only 28, so it's
that's true. Good point, Steve. Yeah.
Now I want to ask you something about another term that you got to decomystify. What's adaptic? What is something that someone adaptic thermogenesis? Let's call it that.
Yeah.
What is that?
So when people go on diets and lose weight and then they plateau.
Yes.
And like, I'm doing everything the same and suddenly I'm not losing weight the way I was. Because your body will adapt.
Yeah.
And obviously the body's entire job in life is to keep you alive.
Yep.
So it's like it's thinking, okay, we're losing weight here. There's less coming in. So there might be a famine. So if it keeps going, we're going to lose all our body fat and we're not going to have anything to survive on. So let's slow everything down to match what's coming in so that we can sort of maintain this body fat to keep us alive. So the body will continually adapt. So that's why you have to continually change your calories. So if your actually weight loss is slowing down, a lot of times you have to increase your calories to start to get that burning again. So your body goes, oh, cool, okay, we've got more fuel coming in. We can burn it again now because we're safe. We're not going to go into a famine and die because we've got no body fat. Well,
I remember when it's about 20 years ago, I was living on the Gold Coast, well, still am, but different area, and I got into running. And I remember that I was in this run club in the morning and we'd do it was pretty easy, but what I say it was all, it was like we're all sort of, you do what you can, and people were great runners, people were shit runners like me. And then one day they said, okay, we're doing a 5K this morning. And I remember thinking, holy shit. And I finished it, the 5K. I was exhausted after 5Ks. I was dead to the world. And this was 20 years ago. I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
This morning I did 8 kilometres and I didn't think of it as, it wasn't hard, it was hot.
Well, you've done a marathon.
I've done
now.
So it's sort of like I adapted.
Yeah.
Now, if someone said to me 20 years ago, run 5Ks, it was tough. Now I could do 5Ks in my sleep. I wasn't, I wouldn't be faster. I'd be faster now. But the fact is that I've adapted to that. So if you're doing the same exercise, you're going to get better at it, which means you're going to burn less calories. You're going to become more efficient because, as you correctly say, the body's trying to survive.
Yeah, well, it's like the same thing. If you go to the gym and you lift the same weight every day you're in there, you're only going to get to a certain level of progression and then you're going to stop.
Yeah.
So your body's like, okay, well, I'm kind of pretty good with this now. I've adapted to it and it's easy. So you've got to keep changing it up. You've got to keep, tricking the body and challenging the metabolism.
Someone very overweight, very obese, if they did 5Ks of anything, they'd burn way more calories.
Yeah, way more.
As I said before, so it's quite amazing.
Yeah.
And I guess what we've got to another worry about calorie counting is quality versus quantity, because a calorie is a unit of heat, okay? It's not anything to do with food. It's a physics shit thing that I used to learn years ago. It's a unit of energy, okay? And joules is another unit of energy. So I don't know why Australians don't use kilojoules.
I don't know, but it's confusing. I prefer calories.
Yeah.
But if you want an easy way to do it, just divide your kilojoules by 4.18 and you get calories.
That's right. Here's the interesting thing that joules is I think the energy required to get 1 cubic centimetre of water by 1 degree or something like that. There's a definition for it. But calories is a unit of energy or heat or that sort of thing. It's really energy.
Yeah.
So that's why we're talking about this, but it doesn't speak about the quality of the foods.
No.
So what's quality versus quantity? Tell me that.
Well, I mean, if you have 200 grams of broccoli or 200 grams of pastry, then, you know, they're both 200 grams, but they're going to behave very differently in the body. One is full of micronutrients and fibre and things like that. The other one is full of inflammatory ingredients. So
trans fats, flour.
Trans fats, sugars, all that sort of stuff. Therefore, it's going to create inflammation in your body and then impede weight loss or fat loss. Yeah. So it's, and you know, the whole, I guess we can't say names, but there used to be I think it's still around now, the calorie counting people, you know, that you go on the diet and it's just, the points counting, Yes. So every piece of, I think, from this, like a cake was a point or 2 points. So if you allocated 5 points for the day and you use 2 of them on cake, then that's okay, or 3 of them on cake, but you just eat the cake and one other little thing. That's it. But you still haven't gone over your points. But it's that the quality of the calories that you're eating is not good. Therefore, you're going to create inflammation, as we said, and other issues that we can talk about later that may be a problem. Therefore, it's going to impact your metabolic function and your mitochondrial health and your ability to burn the calories themselves. So quality comes into play too. So I think we're kind of preaching to the converted most of our audience. They're not going to be eating rubbish. But yeah, the quality is definitely a part of it as well, as to how well it's actually your body sort of processes it, metabolizes it, and burns the energy off from it.
Okay, I'll give you another hypothetical.
Yes.
What would happen if I had 200 grams of refined carbohydrates, so say rice, 200 calories, we'll say, and then I have 200 calories worth of meat? The meat makes me feel full for longer. Now, the gym bros who go, screw it, you're going to be hungry, who cares, suck it up.
Yeah.
But in the real world, if people are craving food, guess what they do?
Yeah, carbs.
They eat carbs.
Yeah.
And so it starts to become like these sugary foods, because you've got to remember the carbohydrates turn into sugars, but even just sugary foods like chocolates, people want to eat more. And so there is an addiction process with that, and that's controversial.
Even complex carb like rice, potato, sweet potato, which is nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with these foods, but if you're having too many of them, it's extra energy. It turns to sugar very quickly. So, but people will even, they said, I don't eat sugars, but I do eat a lot of carbs and rices and things like that. I'm like, well, it's kind of converting very easily to sugar anyway. So whereas protein, takes a lot longer, the process to turn to glucose. So there's that. And then obviously added sugars and fats, which we talked about, which we don't know, hidden sugars and fats. And here's a big one that people probably don't actually measure is alcohol.
Oh,
particularly in this country.
Yeah, of course.
So calories from alcohol, they sometimes they don't think about that, and they can be huge. Or very underestimated the amount.
It's one of the listed addictive drugs here is alcohol too.
Yeah, okay.
And it induces reward and cravings comparable to addictive drugs, being more rewarding than, wait for this, cocaine.
Wow.
And you're going to say, where's Steve getting that shit from? Well, he's getting it from the British Medical Journal. Sugar Addiction, Is It Real? A Narrative Review. So it's a peer-reviewed paper at BMJ, British Medical Journal, 2017. And they've got a beautiful diagram here. I'll hold it up for the camera, but you can see it. It basically means you are addicted to sugar. I had an argument with a psychologist who said sugar addiction is not real. And I said, are you serious? People are... Because otherwise, we're naturopaths. The first thing we do for anyone on any sort of diet, anywhere healthy, cut out the sugars. Why don't they? It's the right thing to do. It's because they're addicted to it.
Yeah.
And it's addicted to it like cocaine, and that's what the paper says. And it talks about consuming sugar increase the release of opioids and dopamine in the brain, and it delays the release of acetylcholine, which leads to binge eating and escalation in intake, which gives you sugar cravings. It's a biochemical process well described. So if sugar, anybody, we have weird views as naturopaths compared to, say, dietitians and that sort of thing, but we would all say sugar's bad for you.
Yeah.
Why doesn't everybody cut it out?
Yeah, that's right.
Because they like it. They're addicted to it.
Yeah. And because it's not cigarettes or alcohol, it's not dangerous. They don't look at it like that. But so it's not a bad addiction. But it can be. It can be a really bad addiction.
Well, we did a podcast on this years ago about how sugar, they kind of covered this information up.
Yeah.
In the early days.
Yeah.
It's very bad, but you're right.
That's why they hide sugar in even savoury snacks and things because it's that addictive, impact of the sugar that's in it. So a lot of savoury processed foods have sugars in them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for example, if you add sugar to a pastry food and you cook it, it turns brown. It's called the Maillard reaction, which is the browning of sugars. It causes advanced glycosylated end products. So browning grains, like toast, is very bad for you.
Yeah.
Because you get a Maillard reaction.
Yeah.
For those, if you want to Google that, but that's basically sugars burning, so it's quite bad.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really incredible. And now we're getting to the elephant in the room. I like the way I put that.
Yes, you did. Elephant in the room, yes. Yeah, so if you've all over the stuff that we just talked about,
let's say you're perfect.
I've done it and it's not, I've sorted that, it's not a factor.
Yep, not a factor. It's perfect.
Yep. I mean, a whole food diet. I don't eat processed foods. I weigh everything to the nth degree. I'm like all over everything. Everything goes in my mouth. And I still can't lose weight. Yeah. So this is where the whole calories in, calories out, then the lines get blurred. Yep. Some fitness influencers and people say, it's all it comes down to is calories in, calories out. Yeah. Well, no, there is underlying things that can really impact that. So somebody who is completely healthy, doesn't have any underlying issues, can have maybe 2,000 calories a day or 1,800 calories a day and lose weight. And then someone standing beside them can have the 1,800 calories a day. Everything's perfect, on point, can't lose a stitch of weight. Yeah. So there could be other issues or other reasons for that we can talk about now.
And what's one of the big ones?
One of the big ones is the gut microbiome.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, that's why I've said at the very start of this, is it what you're putting in your mouth or what you're putting in your body? Different things.
It's completely different. Yeah.
Completely different things.
Yeah. What are you feeding? What are you not feeding? Because whenever you eat something, you're feeding a bug. Yeah. So what bugs are you feeding? Good ones or bad ones?
It hits the bugs before it hits the body.
That's right.
Because the bugs are not, this is weird, but the bugs aren't actually in the body because our GI tract is considered external.
Outside, yeah. Yeah, so they're actually outside.
So there's all these different bugs in the gut. I mean, this is like one of them, Methanobrevibacter smithi, which is a bug that causes, problems with regards to getting, absorbing calories and that.
Yeah, so methanogen. So Methanobrevibacter smithi, as you said, is a methanogen. Yep. And they are very, very often, there's a type of SIBO called EMO. It used to just be called SIBO, but now it's called
emo.
Isn't
that a little doll or something? Isn't emo?
A what?
A little emo is a little... Elmo. Oh, that's right. Oh, shit. Can you tell I've got no children? Trying to sound smart. Oh, that sounds like it's not. Wrong. Totally.
No, intestinal methanogen overgrowth now. It used to be called SIBO, but because methanogens are not actually, they're an archaea, they're not actually bacteria.
Yeah, they are.
So they're not really, can't say SIBO because SIBO is small intestinal bacterial, not methanogen. Right. Whatever, anyway. Semantics. But it's very much, very commonly implicated in EMO or SIBO, which is an overgrowth in the small intestine. Wow. So the small intestine is where we do all our absorption of our nutrients and things like that. We don't have as much bacteria or archaea or fungi or any sorts of things in our small in our small intestine. They're very much more in our large intestine. That's kind of where we produce our short-chain fatty acids and all that sort of thing. So if we have a translocation to the small intestine, then we have these methanogens where they're not supposed to be, and they can absorb, they can extract a lot more calories from food than somebody who doesn't have the methanogen overgrowth in there. So if you've got EMO or SIBO and you're eating 1,200 calories a day and your friend is eating 1,200 calories a day, you're the same weight, and she's losing weight because she doesn't have EMO or he, and you're not losing anything, it's the methanogens can be extracting more calories from your food. So,
and you might, everybody's going to pick on them and say, oh, they're bad, we don't want them. But in survival mode, from our evolutionary point of view, if you were starving, if you're on Naked and Afraid, Nick, Have you seen that show?
Yeah, I've seen that show.
I like that show.
Yeah,
That's fun. Where they go out and do stupid shit in the bush naked and afraid for 21 days.
Oh, I think there's an Australian one too, isn't there?
There is an Australian one. And and you want a lot of this stuff because if you eat 3 crabs a day, little crabs a day, you want to get as many calories out of those suckers as possible. So this is not a bad thing. This is human evolution.
Well, I mean, nothing in the body happens for no reason.
No, everyone picks on things like cortisol and
it's like, no, it's a reason.
It's funny because there's a really good review paper on the microbiome and the gut, and it's called Exploring the Impact of the Gut Microbiome on Obesity and Weight Loss, a review article published in Curious, which is in 2023. Great paper, really goes into all that. It's quite incredible. So absolutely amazing. And there's another paper here that I didn't. I gave a copy. Yep. Yeah, it's the gut microbiome induces weight gain and inflammation in the gut, and adipose tissue independent of manipulations in diet, genetics, and the immune response. Yeah. So this microbiome works independently of all this other stuff. How the heck do you account for that?
Well, that's right. And a lot of people don't know. You know, a lot of people might have digestive upsets, but they don't really know what's going on in the gut.
No.
So what bugs you have in there and where the bugs are located and in what amounts the bugs are in could be definitely impacting that. As we said, so increased energy yield, as we said, so the methanogens.
Yep.
Altered gut transit time. So if you have higher methanogens, you generally have slower transit times. It creates gas, methane, basically.
Methane gas, yeah.
So you get more gas and sometimes constipation and that type of thing. So slower transit times allows for more exposure to food.
Yes.
Also toxins, and toxins can recirculate, creates inflammation and that sort of thing. So therefore you're getting more extraction from the nutrients that you have in there.
Yep, gotcha.
And then we have things called firmicutes or firmicutes.
I call them firmicutes because
I call them firmicutes, but some people call them firmicutes. I don't. Some people because they're firmicute.
That's funny because I've got a paper here in Publishing Gut Microbiomes, and those ones are very heavily associated with obese people.
That's right. Yeah.
So firmicutes don't make you firmicute?
No, they don't. They don't make you firmicute at all. So they're very efficient at breaking down carbohydrates into short chain fatty acids.
Okay, so they've got a role. They're not the devil.
No, not the devil.
No.
Which leads to increased calorie absorption. So when I'm doing gut microbiome testing, we look at the ratios of different things as well. So firmicutes to bacteroidetes ratio is out. So if you've got higher firmicutes, I don't know. I just so used to saying firmicutes. I'm going to say firmicutes.
I like that. That's a better way to pronounce it.
Higher firmicutes is associated to bacteroidetes is associated with obesity.
Yeah, so very much
higher ratio.
And it's funny, because guess what the most common probiotic on the market is? Firmicute.
Oh, yeah.
Lactobacillus acidophilus?
Yes, that's right, yeah. Or the lactobacillus and the acidophilus and all the lacto ones, they're not natives to our gut anyway.
No, they're not supposed
People
to be
think
there.
that they're supposed,
not to say they're bad. There's studies showing they're good.
No, Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG grows some great things for the gut, right? So there's some really good ones. So here's another one, gut-related, is reduced diversity in the gut.
Okay, Shannon index is the diversity of how many different bugs. So you want more diversity.
Yeah, of the good bugs.
Good bugs.
There's a lot of studies that show that less diverse microbiome is linked to metabolic dysfunction, inflammation, obesity. A lot of that can be because if you have less diversity, a lot of times what you have there is more inflammatory microbes.
Yeah.
Because the good bugs generally crowd out the bad ones.
Yeah.
So you have sort of a better balance because we all have some proteobacterial, inflammatory microbes.
Yeah, sure.
We all have some, but the balance has to be right. So if you've got less good, you have more room for more bad, which create inflammation. Inflammation impacts mitochondria and impacts our ATP production, our energy production, all of that sort of stuff.
So that's a tricky point for people. Count calories to lose weight typically. But if they're stuffing up their mitochondria and energy levels, and you're saying to these people, hey, why don't you hit the gym? Go for a run. They go, oh, I've got no energy.
Yeah.
And it's like, because of the microbiome.
Because the microbiome is creating inflammation. So endotoxins, so lipopolysaccharide producing bacteria is not uncommon. So they produce a lot of endotoxins, which then, can degrade the gut lining. We've talked about this in lots of other podcasts on the gut. then these compounds go out into systemic circulation, create inflammation systemically, impact how the mitochondria work, so they make you tired. They can impact, thyroid function because of the inflammation, which then lowers your metabolic rate. So therefore, you're going to be tired, so you can't exercise, and your metabolic rate's going to go down.
Yeah.
All because you're growing these more pathogenic bugs in your gut that are releasing this endotoxins.
It's incredible because it's just a vicious circle. And the poor innocent person who's trying to count calories and trying to do the right thing, they got the gut bugs that are wrong, and they don't know it because you just feel a bit funny maybe in the guts, but everyone feels a bit funny in the guts from time to time.
Yeah.
But this is just going to screw with people, and it's like it means that you've got these bad bugs or even good bugs that are absorbing too many calories, or not too many, but every single calorie you're eating.
That's right, exactly. So
I don't know.
Yeah, so the gut is a major player when we're talking about weight loss resistance or fat loss resistance, we'll say. So the gut.
What else? What else can screw with our metabolism?
Hormones, Steve.
Oh,
Hormones
dear.
and metabolic imbalances.
Yep.
Well, some are going to be obvious. So insulin resistance, relatively obvious. But dysregulated gut bacteria. So there is gut bacteria that can create insulin resistance, Steve.
There is too.
So there is, yeah. So there's bugs that create branched chain amino acids.
Yep.
Which we all know are branched chain amino acids. We take them in.
Leucine, isoleucine, and valine.
Yep.
They're essential for the body. Yep.
Yeah. So we have gut bacteria that can produce them as well, and in high enough levels, they can dysregulate our blood sugar and then create an insulin-resistant type.
Well, valine increases insulin. That's what its role is, and that's why people drink it for the branched chains, because it boosts insulin. Insulin boosts growth of muscles.
That's right.
But if you're making
the gym,
great when you're in the gym. But the average Joe six-pack out there who doesn't go to the gym, who still wants to lose weight,
and a lot of these people are drinking branched chains like
I know.
Wazoo. Too much. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I do so many microbiome tests, and I often see branched chain amino acid producing bacteria very high. And these are in people that have issues with weight loss.
Wow.
So so that can be a part of it. And you know what? Another thing with insulin resistance, people think, well, I don't have a bad diet. I'm not obese. I'm a bit overweight. But they're extremely stressed.
Yeah.
So that in itself can create insulin resistance.
Absolutely,
lack
it
of
does.
sleep, anything that can activate that that cortisol production can create insulin resistance longer term. So
cortisol makes your body turn muscle into sugar. No one wants that.
Yeah,
but too much of it, it's bad for you.
That's right.
A little bit, fine.
Yeah, it breaks down your muscle, so therefore you're reducing, your organs that actually are very good at helping to utilise the sugars.
All right.
Less of those.
Another hormone's thyroid dysfunction?
Yeah, and everyone think, it's just my thyroid.
Just my
this
thyroid.
Is the classic. It's just my thyroid. I've got to suppress thyroid. That's why I can't lose weight.
This is a bugbear of mine.
Yeah, and yes, it's probably probably a very strong contributing factor from your thyroid, but there's nothing generally wrong with, unless they have Hashimoto's or Graves', which is an autoimmune thyroid condition, which really isn't the thyroid. It's still not the thyroid anyway, is it, right? It's an immune problem. But that can create degradation to the thyroid gland. Sorry, I just banged the table. Matt will get mad at me. But for the most part, as we've said so many times, the thyroid is a regulator.
Yes.
So if you have reduced thyroid function, and I see this very often, overweight women who are eating very minimal amount of calories, their body is going to that hibernation mode, so it's like low T3 syndrome, and that's because, like we said before, the body's like, there's not much food coming in, so we've got to slow the metabolic function down, and that's what it's doing by reducing your T3 or T4 and T3.
T3 is your active thyroid, T4 is your generally inactive one.
Yeah, so you convert that T4 to T3. Yep. So if she's, big overweight women, and the other thing is they're now saying that fat is a goitrogen.
Fat is a goitrogen.
Yeah.
Now, a goitrogen is something that suppresses iodine and suppresses thyroid, basically.
Yeah, so, people say, years ago, don't eat a lot of broccoli. And if you've got a thyroid condition, don't eat broccoli and all the cruciferous vegetables and soy because of the goitrogens, which we now know is not right anyway. True. They should eat bucket loads of it. But, a lot of overweight women have underactive thyroid. So is it that they have an underactive thyroid and they've gotten fat, or is it they've gotten fat and that's created an underactive thyroid because the fat is a goitrogen which impacts the thyroid?
Of course.
So they're showing now that also is a factor as well.
My God.
So, if you're overweight, and you have an underactive thyroid, it's not necessarily the thyroid that's causing the weight.
Not causing. It's a result of the weight gain.
It's a result of. So it could be because the fat's impacted the thyroid. So
yeah,
it's tricky. You've really got to look into the thyroid and all the markers, and because 9 times out of 10, like I said, I'll even say 10, unless it's thyroid cancer or thyroid nodules, hot nodules and things, it's never the thyroid itself that's the problem. No. It's reacting. So
Correct.
You've got to find what it's reacting to. A lot of times it is either the high body fat, or it's the poor diet, or it's the inflammation from what's going on in the gut that's creating the thyroid issue, that's creating the weight issue. So
so let's say someone's got a weight issue. Chances are they're not eating well, healthy. Yeah. Chances are they're not exercising enough. Chances are.
Yeah.
But also fat cells itself produce 2 hormones, estrogen and leptin.
Yes.
So Nic,
yeah.
Let's say a woman's overweight, they're carrying excess body fat, as you said. Tell me about, because fat makes estrogen.
Yes.
It aromatizes testosterone and estrogen. What does estrogen do with weight gain?
So estrogen is renowned for weight gain, weight loss resistance. So this is a big thing with women who are quite overweight postmenopausally, and they think, well, they're producing a lot of estrogen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hang on, I'm postmenopausal.
They should be detoxifying it.
That's right, yeah. So a lot of these women have quite a lot of body fat, so they're producing a lot of estrogen in their fat cells, not the good type, not the right type of estrogen. No. It's probably more the toxic.
Estradiol,
E3s generally and that sort of thing. So that creates inflammation in the body.
Yes.
It creates high cortisol, all that sort of stuff. So estrogen in the fat cells can be a big problem. And the problem is fat cells create more estrogen, and then more estrogen create more fat cells.
Yep.
So it's very hard to break that cycle
Gotcha.
to get the weight off to reduce that estrogen. Yeah, so then we have something called glucuronidation of estrogen.
Glucuronidation. So this is where we detoxify estrogen.
Yes.
Yep, via the gut.
Yep.
And what happens there? What if that's screwed up?
So we have something called beta-glucuronidase.
It's an enzyme, yeah.
And what that can do, so let's go with the process. So we produce our estrogen, our body metabolizes it, uses what it needs, and then it sort of binds it all up, conjugates it, and then it sits sort of in phase 2, goes through phase 1, sits in phase 2, ready to be excreted through the liver.
Via the bile,
Yep. And then if you're producing a lot of beta-glucuronidase producing bacteria in the gut, and you have a lot of that.
So E. coli is a bad one?
Yep, E. coli is a really bad one. It can come in and deconjugate that bound estrogen and then recirculate it.
Oh.
And therefore you're then having more estrogen coming back through, so therefore you can have an estrogen dominant effect that creates, more fat cells or bigger fat cells, and therefore you have this vicious cycle. So
thyroid screws up everything.
Thyroid,
so it's like, so the microbiome's a real bugger, isn't it?
Yeah, really, really.
Like it can really play havoc.
Yeah, really, really big
and I don't see the gym bros talking about microbiome.
No, they don't.
Maybe they do.
They don't.
Some
they
might.
do. Some might, but a lot don't.
Oh, well, okay.
They say, well, you're just eating too much.
Yeah.
And I'm not eating hardly anything, and I'm not. And I've gone through all the things we talked about at the start, and I'm not doing any of that. I've got it on point, but I just can't seem to break this cycle. I can't get the fat off, and that
they evoke the laws of thermodynamics a lot.
Yes.
And I'm a nerd, chemist. We learn about there's 4 laws of thermodynamics.
Yeah.
And a few of them are not very applicable for humans. But one of them is that, people say energy cannot be created or destroyed, which is true.
It's true.
It can be converted. You can convert, calories food calories into energy, and you convert energy into matter if you wanted to.
Yes.
There's a conversion thing. But the 4 laws of thermodynamics don't talk about, it must go to fat. There's nothing in the law of thermodynamics like that.
Yeah.
So we're not breaking the laws of thermodynamics here.
No.
Firstly, the food's got to be absorbed, microbiome.
Yeah.
And then it's got to be biochemically burned. If your mitochondrial energy down, thyroid levels down, you're not burning energy. So we're not breaking the first law of thermodynamics, which is energy is converted.
That's right.
So I mean, this is a really interesting concept because, people say calories in, calories out, but there's so many different variables to it. We haven't even gone through all the other variables either. There's a few more.
There's more,
But just to know that the first law of thermodynamics, the conservation of energy, is not broken here.
Yeah.
Because it's firstly, it's not the amount you eat, it's the amount you absorb. And, we've gone through all those things and you're cooking and you could be wrong. But what are some of the other problematic things? Now, I want to talk about inflammation. You mentioned it a bit before.
Yeah, inflammation.
What do you want to tell me about that? How does chronic inflammation cause weight gain or weight loss resistance. How does that cause? What does it do?
It significantly impacts our ability to, or the body's metabolic function, hormonal balance, cellular function, which is a really important factor, impacts cellular function, which all can contribute to weight gain, weight loss resistance. So chronic inflammation can disrupt our hormone balance. So our leptin resistance, as we talked about before.
Now, leptins are hormones secreted from fat cells that tell you to stop eating.
That's right. Yeah. So that,
So if that's resistant.
That's right. Then you're going to be hungry.
All the time.
Yeah. So this is more not, okay, I'm only eating a certain amount of calories, I'm not losing weight. This is, I am now really hungry and I'm eating more calories because I'm hungry. I'm so hungry because I have this leptin resistance. So insulin resistance, as we said. So the inflammation can significantly contribute to, inflammation interferes with insulin signaling. So inflammatory cytokines impacts insulin signaling, results in higher blood sugar levels, promotes fat storage, obviously, as we know, all that sort of thing. Cortisol dysregulation. I think everyone's kind of aware of this one now, that cortisol can create weight loss resistance and weight gain, particularly around the middle.
Where everyone hates that.
Yeah, the old cortisol tire right around the middle.
They get you see these people are quite emaciated in the legs and the arms, and they've got this big belly just around the belly button area, the cortisol belt. It's horrendous. It's horrendous. People spend thousands to get rid of it with lipo and all sorts of other things, and yet the cause of it's never addressed. No,
and inflammation. So anything that activates the stress response, and inflammation does, then you're going to have that cascade, the HPA axis, cortisol production and all that sort of thing. So, so inflammation can impact that. Altered cellular function.
Ooh.
So our cells are so important. We have mitochondria in our cells. So adipose tissue is inflammatory in itself.
It is. Leptin's inflammatory.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So adipose tissue can become inflamed in response to excess fat storage. So the fat itself then creates its own inflammation, and then the inflammation creates more issues with fat loss resistance.
Jeez.
So it's sort of that vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Reduce fat burning capacity when you have altered fat cell function. So it suppresses the activity of lipoprotein lipase.
Yep, that's an enzyme that breaks down fat.
That's right, exactly. So inflammation suppresses that. Therefore, it's harder to burn fat. Damage mitochondria, so chronic inflammation. So any sort of inflammation will damage our mitochondria, which is kind of like the powerhouse of our cell. We've talked about that many times, energy producing. So therefore, if we don't have as much energy expenditure, we have more fatigue, you can't exercise like we said before, so that's another one. Impaired appetite regulation, so inflammation of the hypothalamus.
And I hate to say this, but in the real world, where people's got appetite, they crave foods and they just go, oh, screw it, I'm going off the diet, I can't hack it, I'm too hungry, blah, 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 and they just go and eat bad food. Nobody goes binging on broccoli. We're talking about...
Or chicken breast.
Yeah. And you don't binge eat on steak because it fills you up.
Yeah.
So this whole thing about suck it up, princess, you're going to get hungry. No, it's like it's a real thing for people, and they really break their diets. They're out shopping. There's food everywhere.
Everywhere.
You can get it anywhere, and you can get bad food anywhere. That's for sure.
You can get bad food easily.
So appetite regulation is incredible, and I want you to tell me about how impaired appetite regulation damages the hypothalamus.
Yeah, so the hypothalamus is part of the brain's responsible for appetite and metabolism. So it can be really vulnerable to inflammation. So then that disrupts if that is part of the brain is inflamed, that will then disrupt that hunger signal.
Yep, gotcha.
And then you can end up getting more skewed and being more hungry. Inflammation damages the brain basically. Therefore, damages those signals that tell you you're hungry, you're not hungry. Therefore, you can overeat.
Yeah, exactly.
And then obviously inflammation we talked about from the microbiome. We talked about that. Increased muscle loss.
All right, so let's talk about the muscles now. I mean, obviously muscles burn more calories because they're a bit more active than fat cells. So remember that screws you. So if you're 80 kilos, you're 80 kilos of what? In your Fitbit or whatever. Oh, I'm lean. What does that mean? So there's a bit of inaccuracies there.
Yeah.
But sarcopenic loss of muscle mass means that people were much more easier to put on weight.
And this is the whole Ozempic problem.
Yes.
You people that they look like they're on death's door. They lose all because they're losing all their muscle because they're not eating. It shuts down your appetite. So it's not that they're not eating the right foods; they're just not eating hardly anything. So therefore, they're becoming catabolic. They're burning their muscle. They're becoming sarcopenic. So they have less muscle mass than when they started. And as we said, muscle is creates metabolic health. So you need to have good muscle mass for good healthy metabolic function. So if you're losing that. Yes, you're losing weight. And people say, I'm losing so much weight. Weight being the key word because you're losing a lot of muscle.
Yeah.
You're losing a little bit of body fat, but you'll lose muscle before you lose body fat. That's the thing. So, increased muscle loss, and that can come from inflammation, but just from under eating as well, being catabolic. So that's why it's so important to maintain good protein intake and resistance training, so you can try to preserve your muscle because you will always lose a bit of muscle. Like even when you're doing cutting diets for comp, you can lose a fair bit of muscle. So that's why you got to try it. That's why they do a long campaign and when you're off season, you're building as much muscle as you can because as soon as you drop your calories, you will lose muscle. So muscle loss, and that's what we talk about it all the time. But this is why, because if you have the less muscle mass you have, the less metabolically healthy you are. So really, really important. So protein and strength training when you're dieting is like just the basis of everything. You have to do that to maintain as much muscle mass as you can. And
by doing that, you can also eat a lot of protein.
Yeah, exactly.
To keep muscle mass on. There was one study that I'm going to read out to you. I absolutely love this study. Basically, it says the effects of consuming a high-protein diet. Now, when I say high protein, I mean 4.4 grams of protein per kilogram per day.
It's pretty high.
It's like we sort of go high proteins too.
Yeah, so kind of doubling what we would consider to be a higher end.
And what they found in the study was they gave them an absolutely monstrous amount of calories in the form of protein, and their calories was surplus the other group, and they found that the people with the most protein, eating more calories, burnt the most fat. These people that were gorging, and the reason why 4.4 number, because that's all they could possibly eat.
Yeah, that'd be a struggle.
They were struggling in the paper here. These fit trained people, they give them a massive amount of calories, especially protein, and they found that consuming 5.5 times the recommended daily allowance of protein had no effect on body composition in resistance trained individuals to maintain the same training regime. So it didn't even, and they said this is the first interventional study to demonstrate that consuming a high per caloric, so too many calories, high protein diet does not result in increased body fat. So it's not calories.
No.
Because they gave them loads of calories. High per means too many.
Yeah.
And it didn't put on body fat.
That's right.
Put on muscle.
Yeah.
But no one complains they got too much muscle apart from me. But no, I don't.
Too much as it is, Steve.
Much. Yeah, shit.
Yeah,
no.
no.
So it depends on the quality of the food. And this, of course, increases, as you said before, the thermic effect of food. Protein has got a 15%. So 15% turns into thermogenesis, so it boosts your metabolism.
That's right.
So you feel better.
Yeah.
Because you got more energy.
That's right.
And then when you say to this person, hey, get up, go for a walk, and they say, yes, sir, I'm full of energy.
I'm done. Yeah.
The average inflamed, gut microbiome person who's eating less calories, they're not going to have the energy to do any of this stuff.
No.
So I love that study.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great study.
Oh, where do we get it from? I should say this. It's the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition, 2014. Love it. Really interesting study.
Yeah.
So it's really good. But, so we've got other facters here that can...
Look, we've got the sex hormone, which I think people are sort of aware of. Estrogen dominance, low testosterone in men, high testosterone in women also can be a factor to weight loss resistance, PCOS and things like that. Progesterone imbalances, I see that a lot, low progesterone. Funnily enough, your progesterone will go down if you're on a low-carb diet or if you're exercising too much. So women could be a bit overweight, trying to lose weight. So I'm going to cut my calories and increase my exercise, which you all know doesn't work. So therefore they're suppressing their progesterone levels. So therefore they're creating a estrogen dominant picture. So therefore they can retain fluid and fat and all that sort of stuff. So people know about the sex hormone dysregulation, which is really common.
So it's really interesting. Like we've done a podcast on menopause too. So and we talk about weight gain and menopause too. So there's some hormones.
Other factors come into play. Menopause.
So hormones are bad too. Now as men age, we lose testosterone, but we can't do anything about that unless we take herbal medicines that can boost testosterone. There's plenty of those around, or even testosterone replacement therapy is another option, but I go for the herbs first because it's a much safer way to do it. It's really interesting, all this sort of stuff, because we've got so much more to talk about. But
there's so much, like, chemical overload, toxins and things.
Toxins.
Molds is another big one that's really common. Obesogens, so chemicals, they're called obesogens because they create obesity. And a lot of these toxins can sit in the fat cells because the body I have to get these away from circulation, so they will store them somewhere where it's inert.
And they're fat-soluble toxins.
That's right.
And but hard to get rid of.
Yeah, exactly. So then they create inflammation, and then that inflammation, as you said, creates all those other issues. So,
and I guess it's really tricky because looking at all this data and all this sort of stuff, it comes down to people are going to ask us, well, what do we do about this? Do we consider calories and all that sort of stuff? From the take of this is, I'm not a big fan of measuring calories.
No, I'm not.
I'm not unless.
If someone comes to me with weight loss resistance, the first thing I do is, okay, let's track your calories for a couple of days because we need a metric. Because we could go in looking at all the testing and doing all the things and realise, you're actually just eating too much or you're not eating anywhere near enough. So first you need to get a metric and then from there you build it out. So, so my calories are pretty good for where they're supposed to be. Okay, so what else is going on? Is it just that you're overestimating and, whatever?
You're getting it wrong.
It's
easy to do.
Yeah, which, as you said at the start, so you've got that all out of the way. And then, so there is something underlying. So it is not always just calories in, as simple as calories in, calories out for weight loss. So there is other issues, as we said. So if you're trying really hard and people are saying, well, you're just eating too much and you want to smack them in the head, because it's frustrating. It's like you're doing all the things, then there is other reasons. And so, sometimes the influencers say it's just calories. It's not always just calories.
We talk about microbiome, talk about hormones, inflammation. It's not that. And we've tested it. People have been taking huge amounts of protein and they don't put on body fat.
Yeah.
So protein's biochemically an amino acid, which means it's got an amine group, NH2 one end, and a carboxylic acid group, the other end, COOH. So that looks nothing like a hydrocarbon, which is what fat looks like, with triglycerides, with the glycerol background. It's very difficult biochemically to turn protein into fat. So I think the first thing you should do if you're trying to lose weight is to increase protein.
Yeah, 100%. Because it's also going to help to maintain muscle mass, as we said, which then helps to maintain your metabolic health.
And you're going to feel full.
Yeah. And balance blood sugars.
If you go have a few jelly beans, Nick, and I know you wouldn't, but you feel like getting more.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a addiction drug. So first thing is eat more protein, get off the sugary shit and refined carbohydrates. Everyone will agree with that. The protein thing's a bit more controversial, but the studies are coming out. They'll keep you full longer, so you're less likely to cheat.
That's right.
Fats, keep them healthy.
Yeah, that's right.
And, as you say, look at the microbiome, look at the hormones,
thyroid, toxins, all those.
There's a lot to it, isn't there?
There is a lot to it, yeah.
But that's pretty good. What else would you suggest for people who are trying to lose weight and looking at counting calories?
Get someone to look for these underlying problems that are contributing or causing the weight loss resistance, because you're not lazy and you're not going crazy and you're not eating too much. Because a lot of people say, they come to me, primarily women, but some men, it's like, I'm really not eating a lot and I'm exercising and I'm just not losing there's nothing budging. And it can be difficult. I get clients that's really hard. It's really hard to try and pinpoint what it is.
God.
So
I don't know, crazy stuff. And you look after your stress levels, all that sort of stuff too.
Stress levels, sleep, all the lifestyle stuff obviously factors.
It's amazing. Well, it's about all we've got time for. But, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah.
So many different factors. It's not calories in, calories out.
No, not always.
It's not always. It's so tricky. All right. Well, Nic, we'll see you next week and you have a good week.
Yeah. See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Nic. Today we're doing Ask a Naturopath.
Yes.
You're a naturopath?
Two.
Oh, two, yeah. I'm a naturopath too. I'm still registered. So good. Well, I'm going to ask you the first question.
Okay.
From Hudson Hack 26. Are we allowed to say that? Yep, good. That's good. Hey, Nic and Steve, I've been listening to the podcast for over 5 years now. Wow. Get a life. No, I'm joking. Joking.
He's got a life. He listens to the podcast.
He listens to the podcast.
Sorry.
And look for a new episode every week. Yeah, I don't know if it's a guy or girl. I was wondering if you could help me with treating my chilblains, especially in Melbourne's cold winters. Oh, Melbourne sucks. I'm a Melbourne person. For 5 months of the year, for the past 3 years, I've been getting severe chilblains with cuts, splitting, swelling, discoloration, and worst of all, itching, all of which impact my daily life, particularly sleep. I've tried everything from anti-inflammatories, antihistamines, steroidal creams, ointments, wearing gloves 24/7 with little to no success. Are there any herbal supplements, natural treatments I can take / implement to prevent and soothe these symptoms? Thanks. That is a tricky one because Melbourne's cold.
It is, and funnily enough, I used to get chilblains in Melbourne.
Did you? I didn't know that about you.
Chilblains in Melbourne, yeah. When I was younger, when I was old, because I left Melbourne when I was 17, moved to Queensland, then I went back, and I've been back and forth quite a few times. But in between there, I did, and I was diagnosed, I say in air quotes, with Raynaud's disease.
Oh, Raynaud's is a really where you get low circulation to your fingers and you press your fingernails and there's no capillary filling.
Yeah.
Yeah, Raynaud's.
Yeah, Raynaud's, which I don't think I had because they then told me I had lupus. Because I had Raynaud's, which I didn't have Raynaud's either, but lupus can be... Raynaud's can be a symptom of lupus.
Yes,
so the doctor in all their wisdom said, oh, you must have lupus. I'm like,
so
autoimmune condition.
Anti-nuclear antibodies, nothing like that? No, don't worry about testing you.
Back to Hudson Hack 26. I did, yes. So it does come down to circulation.
Yeah.
So you obviously have an issue with circulation. Perhaps you have Raynaud's, possibly. I don't know.
Could be.
But you need to move. You need to increase your circulatory health or improve your circulatory health. So I don't know if you exercise. So exercise I found worked really well for me, a lot of exercising. And then circulatory stimulating herbs are really good as well. So things like bilberry, things like gotu kola, which is one of my favourite herbs.
It's good for your brain too.
Yeah, cayenne, things like, and then other things for like circulation, like
L-citrulline. Ginger, the warming things.
Yeah, all the really warming things. So lots of warming things. I don't know what your diet's like, but lots of chili and ginger and all that sort of really warming type spices and things like that can be really beneficial. I found to be really good. But yeah, gotu kola is really good for circulation and things like horse chestnut, butcher's broom, corn silk.
Oh yeah,
these are all good herbs for circulation.
Yeah.
So and venous health and all that sort of thing. So you could start with that. As far as any topical things, calendula creams are really good. They're really healing, really anti-inflammatory.
That's good, yeah.
That sort of thing, they can be really good. But that'd be a good start. But lots of movement. I mean, you probably are an exerciser because you listen to our podcast.
Of course you do.
Yeah. So, but give those circulatory stimulating herbs a go and see if that really helps. And that's a good one. The only thing I'd recommend is eat more nuts and seeds because arginine for vasodilation and L-citrulline. Yes.
It's like a pump formula that I've just drank a whole heap of and I've got great circulation now.
Yes, that's another
more than I need. So they're really good too. But that's great, Nic.
Getting the beetroot as well.
Beetroot, for the nitrates.
Yeah, all that. Nitrates
cheaper than day rates. All right, well, you ask me a question now, Nic, because we're into the next one. I haven't read this one.
This one's from an anonymous.
Oh.
Hey, Nic and Steve-O, I love listening to your podcast. It's packed with so much useful information. Awesome. I'm hoping you can shed some light on my constant low energy levels. Even after a full night's sleep, I struggle to get through the day without feeling exhausted. Blood tests have ruled out iron deficiency and thyroid issues, but I still feel drained. Could there be any hidden deficiencies, lifestyle tweaks or natural remedies that could help me boost my energy and fight fatigue?
Apart from stress, is fatigue possibly one of the most common things you get talked about in your clinic? Like maybe even
one of. I mean, I do a lot of complex cases, but outside of that, fatigue, definitely.
Like fatigue is caused by all sorts of things and it's really tricky to nail down.
It's kind of a broad question.
Yeah, the good thing is that they've talked about thyroid and iron deficiencies, which is good. But you've got to remember that fatigue is lack of energy in the body. Now, we've just done a podcast on thermogenesis and one of the thermic effects of foods. So protein increases the metabolism because you've got to digest it. So protein-rich foods are very good for improving your metabolism to start with. Yeah. The second thing is you've ruled out thyroid, but I always question that because what do they test your thyroid? Do they test TSH, which is what they commonly do? Yeah. It's not a thyroid hormone.
That's right.
Do they do a free T3 and free T4? And you look at the T3. Yeah. So what about your reverse T3?
That's right.
So I'm always a bit sus when people say that. There's iron studies tests, which are pretty good, I think, now.
Well, again, sometimes I only measure ferritin.
Yeah.
Just ferritin.
Yeah.
Which doesn't give you a full iron picture. Because you could have massive inflammation, so your ferritin's going to be very high. And they go, you've got great iron stores. Yeah. But actually,
So quite remarkable. Also, it could be the microbiome.
Could be.
Screwing with your brain.
Yep.
Causing fatigue.
Yep.
Could be toxins screwing with your brain, causing fatigue. It could be the fact that you may need to do some more intense exercise in the morning, which ups your metabolism throughout the day.
Yeah.
Because, if you do some intense exercise, your body's repairing it throughout the day, which is giving you more energy.
Yeah.
I mean, so many things here.
So many things.
But what else would you suggest?
Like you with thyroid, I would look into that a bit further. And there's something called cellular hypothyroidism. So you can have your thyroid markers look perfect on paper, and then cellularly, it's not the hormones aren't getting into the cells are blocking the uptake, all that sort of thing. So you still have all the symptoms of low thyroid or the fatigue and that sort of thing, but your tests showed that that's okay. Looks fine. So there's that. B12 deficiency could be something.
Pernicious
inflammation,
anemia.
Pernicious anemia. Did you have your full iron, as we said, full iron panel done to actually have a look at what it's all doing? Because, sometimes ferritin's not really the ideal thing to just look at that. What were the other things I was going to say? Yeah, inflammation, as we said. Do you have mold? Have you been exposed to mold? Could you have a mold issue? Hormonal imbalances. Are you actually sleeping well, or you've got blood sugar dysregulation throughout the night that's impacting your sleep and you're not aware of it? There's so many different.
And one of the most common medications given, I do not know because they're anonymous. Are they taking like a drug like that's causing fatigue, like a statin drug? Mate of mine I caught up with yesterday, ex-mechanic, can't function on a statin drug. He's too tired to do anything.
Yeah.
And he had to go off it. He went off it himself. I didn't tell him.
Yeah.
But I told him the side effects and oh, shit. And so he went off it.
Yeah.
And, there's that sort of thing. So there's external things that you might be taking that you think's good for you and that sort of stuff. Really, really tricky one. Are you getting a quality night's sleep?
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people say, "But no, I sleep all night," but they may not be sleeping well.
Yeah.
So, are you sleeping enough, or are you not eating right? Are you not eating well to balance your blood sugar throughout the day? Are you under eating? You're not having enough carbohydrates to match. Maybe you over exercising. Do you have a lot of stress? Like I said, hidden toxins and hidden
cortisol.
Viruses. Is this all come on after COVID or maybe COVID genes? Possibly. That's very common. There's a lot of stuff coming up with that now as well. So
you could have Epstein-Barr virus, which gives you chronic fatigue.
Yeah, and it's a viral load that can cause.
Gee whiz, we've probably over-answered this question.
But if you want simplicity, try some B vitamins because they're water soluble, so it's not going to be too much of an issue.
Ashwagandha gives you energy.
Yeah, magnesium. Get onto some good magnesiums as well. That can be really helpful.
Chromium from sugars.
The ginsengs like ashwagandha, as you said, and other ginsengs. You could try a few of those, but. If you're sleeping well and you're eating well and you're still really fatigued, there's definitely an underlying issue going on that you need to look further into and may not be, may need more than blood testing.
Incredible, Nic. I think we've answered that one. That's a good one.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Well, thanks, Nic. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.
See ya.